Well, I'm so excited because the button click worked. Good evening from me, and I'm very excited to be part of the Hangout tonight, having had quite a few issues with Google over the past couple of months. And just in case people who are watching don't know who I am, I'm Kirsty Gray, and I'm secretary for the society. And I was the intrepid explorer, or I think I was called on Twitter the roving explorer or something. Um, with regard to the recent RootsTech conference. So when we were looking at what plans we had for the first couple of hangouts for this year, I said, oh well, I'll report back on my first trip to RootsTech. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a general kind of this was my experience. Some of it will relate to one place studies in particular, but I don't think many people within the society have probably maybe ever dreamed of going to RootsTech. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they have never even thought of going. Maybe some people have. I know some people were there with me, which was great to actually meet some people who do our crazy one place studies. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview about my trip. Some highs, some lows, some positives, some not so positives, like falling over, which was all entertainment, but I survived. It's okay. But my place was rather close to the ground at that point. Anywho, yes, so it was my first RootsTech experience. I have to confess, I had never even thought of going to RootsTech. It wasn't something that was on my list of things to do. I suppose it was probably in the what's commonly referred to as the bucket list, but I don't think it was anything I'd ever really consciously planned and thought, oh yes, I'm going to go on whichever year or anything like that. So, purpose of going, I think we sort of suddenly had a bit of a windfall in the bit on the business side of things, and suddenly one of the ladies that works on my team said, "Well, why don't we go to RootsTech?" So I went, "Okay," having no real clue where Salt Lake City was or anything. So we just booked all the tickets, booked the hotel, and I just kind of got on a plane, which is generally how I roll with things like that. I don't really plan very much. I just kind of get on a plane, hope to heaven and earth I've got everything with me, and arrive. So we had absolutely no plan whatsoever about what we were going to do, but we had decided that we were going to go a goodly few days early, just so that we could get acclimatized to the weather for a start. It was pretty cold. We arrived on the 29th of January, very, very late, local time. And so I celebrated my birthday 3 times along the different time zones. So my birthday was actually on the Saturday the 30th. And so I had my birthday in the snow, which is pretty rare for me. I did write on Facebook at one point, it's the first time I can remember in my adult life that it snowed on my birthday, and some clever person said, well, it snowed somewhere on your birthday every year. I thought, yeah, but not where I am. But it was very exciting, and you land in Salt Lake City, and for those who don't sort of know too much about the area, there's mountain ranges on both sides. So you sort of land in the dark with all the lights, and you can see the snow on the mountains on both sides. So it's quite an exciting landing even. So on the Saturday, we sort of poddled about and did a few bits and pieces and found the local shopping centre and found Jill Ball in the middle of the shopping centre. Bear in mind, this is about 5 days before the conference is going to start. We weren't expecting to see too many genealogists, but in Salt Lake City, with the conference starting later on in the week, we managed to bump into Jill, or as I think she put on Facebook, she heard this English voice shouting at her across the shopping centre. I didn't think I really shouted, but I attracted her attention anyway, and it was the time when everyone was doing the genealogy selfies. So our selfie was the 3 of us outside Macy's in the City Creek, which is the main shopping centre there. So did a few bits and pieces over the weekend, just kind of found our way around, and actually everything is so close. It's really close to the conference centre, or convention centre as it's properly called, the Salt Palace Convention Centre. But we saw the temple in the snow, and we did all the wandering about and whatnot. And we had a few plans for early in the week. We decided to go to the Family History Library on the Monday. And in my usual, as I mentioned, inimitable fashion, I had planned absolutely nothing. So I just rocked up at the Family History Centre and just kind of thought, right, how does this all work then? and did the standard photograph of all the cabinets behind, selfie with the cabinets behind. But there are millions of reels, and when I say millions, there are millions just in the British Isles bit. So there's different floors in the Family History Library for different parts of the world, and there are millions just in the British Isles section. But those millions are stored in an incredibly small space. There are sort of 6 cabinets back to back, and then back to back and back to back, and they have over 1 million reels. It's quite amazing. So I did a few bits and pieces. Unsurprisingly for me, with my one place study, I didn't find very much that we didn't have access to over here, but certainly with other hats on and doing my own personal research, I did some stuff on my surname study, which I hardly ever managed to get to do, which was delightful. But it's really interesting because even if you've done quite a lot on your studies, I looked at one reel and I had a really rubbish copy of a marriage certificate. And I looked at the reel, not actually realising that I had a copy, copied it, and it was beautiful black text. You could read it perfectly. And when I compared it with what I had on my hard drive, my portable hard drive I'd taken with me, the one I had was rubbish by comparison. So even if you've got stuff and you think, oh, well, actually, I've got everything that's here, it's worth checking because it's obviously a different reel, so it's a different copy. So that was really useful to get a few bits and pieces there. Very soon, you just could not go anywhere for genealogists all over the place. You couldn't walk down the street without saying hi to somebody, and you just got to know. And as soon as everyone got their badges and so on for RootsTech, you just started seeing people walking down the street with them on. So anyway, we did. I was an ambassador for the conference, which I still don't know what that actually means. Anyway, I was one. I applied to be an ambassador, which meant that I blogged and Facebooked and Twittered to my heart's content, as anyone who follows me probably noticed, and some people probably unfollowed me as a result, but hey. So I sort of put out as much as I possibly could for all the different societies, us, other societies that I'm involved in, my own things, blogged as much as I possibly could, and generally took the role pretty seriously. Amy Johnson-Crowe did a lecture on what she calls, I think, local history, although we would call it one-place studies. I'll just share with you quickly, actually, the RootsTech website, because actually Amy's presentation is still available. I don't think you can download it, but you can watch it on the RootsTech site. So there is my RootsTech. So this is Amy's. I don't know where it's gone, funny at the top there, but actually I'll go back one. So this is the page at the top. Let's get rid of this crazy, what's it gone there? Schedule? Let's do the schedule bit. So when you go, oh heavens, sorry, going all over the place. What are you doing, you crazy website? On the main RootsTech page, you've got a huge great list of all of the video archive. So there will probably be other things that are of interest to you, as well as this. There are some famous people. Well, apparently they're famous, although some of them I have to confess I'd never heard of in my life. There were some quite famous people there. AJ Jacobs is on a show over in the US. Stan Ellsworth is the American Ride. So came into the conference centre on a Harley. A fairly bad picture of me with him, just out of focus. Not a bad photograph of me, but I had no idea and had to Google, so I actually didn't sound like a complete Burke when I spoke to him. But if you go a little bit further down, you've got some fairly well-known names: Lisa Louise Cook, Maureen Taylor, Bruce Jury's well-known here over in England. Miko Cleland from Find My Past spoke about British records in general. Josh Taylor even spoke about digital treasures, and Amy, I think I've just scrolled past her. Where is she? There she is, Amy Crowe. I was looking for Johnson Crowe, that's why. And so she did a talk on best websites and apps for finding local history. Well worth a watch. I won't tell you too much and spoil it, but a very, very good speaker, and it was on the main stage, which I have to say was huge. I know you won't be able to actually see sorry, you can see it, but you won't be able to actually hear the sound on here. But if I just show you one of the top ones, don't know if you can, let's click on there. The stage was absolutely monumental. I mean, it was bigger than any conference venue I've ever spoken in or anything else. There we go. There you go. That gives you a slight impression, that general session. But, so I don't know how many people you could fit in there at any one point, but suffice to say, quite a lot. So some of the main, main lectures were there, but there were, I would say, ranging between 16 and 20 lectures at any time. So you had so much opportunity. It was almost too much, actually, because you would inherently find more than one thing that you wanted to do at a time, or you might walk to get to that lecture room and actually it was full, and find that the one next door was empty. So because you had so many people there, and we had over the 3 days, yeah, over the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there were reported 25,000 attendees. That's what they were telling us at the beginning of the conference. I mean, that's just huge. I mean, I can't, I can see Alex going, whoa. I don't think we've got anywhere in this country that would actually house that many people over 3 days. We possibly do, but it certainly wouldn't have been done as efficiently and effectively on one site, I don't think, as RootsTech managed to do.
So,
I mean, some of the...
Kirsty,
go on.
I'd sort of mentally pictured it as being a bit like our Who Do You Think You Are expo. It doesn't sound like it's anything like that at all.
No. In some senses, Susie, it is. in the way that you've got the sort of what they call booths, but we call it, who do you think you are, stand holders or exhibitors. You still have the kind of exhibitors, and you have societies who are, you know, trying to get membership from, you know, people that are there to sign up as members. You have people like Ancestry, Find My Past, people like that trying to sell product, you know, the commercial sides of things. But it's, size-wise, it is just so much bigger. Right. Even the exhibition hall, I would say, is probably at least double the size, if not 3 times the size, of the Birmingham venue that we used for Who Do You Think You Are last year. Excuse me. And yeah, it's just everything about Who Do You Think You Are, but on a massive scale. And on a Mormon scale, because clearly a lot of the people that either live in Salt Lake or are linked and connected with family history, a lot of them are Mormons. So it's a very different kind of ethos of person who goes there. I mean, on the Saturday, it was the Family Discovery Day, and there were thousands of children. I mean, how we could do that in England and actually inspire that many children to want to do family history, I wish I knew. I'd do it. But they're brought up on it. They're brought up on family history, and you know, the Mormon faith is very strong on family research, and a lot of the lecturers were either from Family Search or they were Mormons who were involved in family history. A lot of the bloggers, there were what do they call them, mummy bloggers, so sort of lifestyle bloggers, and a lot of them were Mormons. So it's a very different kind of event, but it's still genealogy. But it is just so much bigger. I mean, it's hard to, apart from giving you numbers, 25,000, and showing you the big venue, it's hard to really explain how big it is. I mean, I wear a Fitbit, and by crikey, I did lots of steps. It was huge. I mean, just to get from one end of the venue to the other, I'd have done 10 active minutes to walk from one end to the other. I mean, thank God my hotel wasn't very far away. But talking of that, actually, you've no idea how many times you go, thank God or bloody hell, until you're in Salt Lake City. You suddenly realise how many times that comes out. You have to be really, really careful. But anyway, so going back to the lectures, they were over several floors. The main hall that I showed you before was the main stage. So you had the bigger names, and you know, the big draw cards, the celebrities and authors and things like that on the big stage. And then there were, as I say, about between 16 and 20 talks at the same time. There were members of the society who did workshops and talks and things whilst we were there. Tessa did, I think, a workshop on Excel, using Excel, getting the most out of Excel. I can't remember the precise title, but she did that, I think, on 2 days. Not I don't think connected particularly with One Place Studies, but obviously a member who was there. Who else was there? Jill Ball, Sian White, who's a member of our society. So we got some ribbons, because lots of people like ribbons in the US apparently. So I bought some ribbons, and they went down very, very well. So people who've seen photographs of anybody or videos of anybody will see our sort of hugely great long ones. I don't know, actually mine's here, not planned, just happens to be on the side of my desk, so I can show you the different ribbons and so on. There's mine. So obviously, you know, pride of place up here. Underneath my ambassadors one, you can see the One Place Studier one. So yeah, there was all sorts. Rockstar, I Tweet, England. Thomas had quite a few sort of location ones, so people knew the people that were from sort of further afield. Diva, Genia Bloggers, Dude, My Ribbon's Better Than Yours. And all sorts of badges. Some Australian ones that Sian brought over, and a RootsTech one as well. I don't know if I'll show you that one there. RootsTech one. Quite nice. So yeah, ribbons is certainly an American thing, but I'm hoping to drag it over to Who Do You Think You Are. I think there's actually things that that both conferences can learn from one another, because one thing I was quite surprised they didn't do was the whole Ask the Experts tables that we do here in England at Who Do You Think You Are. Because with all the people that were ambassadors, it would have been prime time to just give people the opportunity to book time with us and use the expertise that was there. So that's certainly something I'll be suggesting back to them, and saying, well, you know, it would be you know, a potential thing they might want to ask ambassadors, or anybody that wants to you know, pass on their expertise to other members of the genealogical public. It would be really good. And there's things I think that we can pick up and bring back to Who Do You Think You Are, or other events back here. There was another talk I went to, which wasn't recorded, it wasn't on the big stage, and actually wasn't brilliantly attended, which I was quite surprised at. There were the two Dans, Dan Reeves and Dan Shellman, who are both, they work for Family Search, and you can't really avoid a talk that's called Family History Takes Place, Geography and Genealogy, when you're a One Place Studier. I thought, I think that's got to be on the list. So suddenly you'll notice quite a few Twitter messages, tweets at that point, when I was sort of coming up with little quotes and things. And I don't think it was probably Alex, because it was probably the middle of the night for you. So I think it must have been Janet that was on the end of Twitter, pinging things off and picking things up and so on, and retweeting
them.
No,
it was me. It was me. RootsTech time actually works quite well for New Zealand, so long as you're an early bird. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I
wake up and it's about an hour or so into the RootsTech day, and then it runs through to about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Oh, so, brilliant. I sort of sat there seeing the retweets go, and I thought, I don't think that can be Alex.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm amazed. Well, there was some really good sort of, just, I wouldn't even call them taglines or anything, but just some really good sort of phrasing that we might want to use, you know, that was just sort of little things they said that I thought, oh. And it was like they said, the intersection of geography and genealogy, which I thought was quite nice, or genealogy, however you want to pronounce it. And they said, every event in history has its time and its place. And I went, oh, we say stuff about time and place. So I picked up a couple of bits like that. And there are some interesting things about, you know, how you might want to do place studies, and what was going on in your place when a particular ancestor might have lived there, or a particular time, you know, historic events. What was it like to live in a particular place, and try and sort of build up a bit more of a picture of that. You know, talking about interviewing people, and what did people in that particular place think about, you know, when certain things were happening. Maybe the chat was actually talking about some Polish places, and places that had changed, what do you call it, where the borders had changed. So they sort of were in Poland and then went to Ukraine or whatever. And talking about migration, which of course was our shared endeavour. last year, and why did my ancestors move, if you're doing a particular thing about your own ancestors, or why did people within the community study that you're doing move? How did they choose a new home? So for me, lots of people suddenly appear in my places. Well, why did they suddenly appear? And it's something, although I probably had thought about it, I hadn't really consciously thought about it. Okay, so there's some new houses there, but why did those people move there at that point? What made them move? Where did they come from? I know, but why? Maybe sometimes you can't really answer that question, but something that I was particularly looking at. And some really interesting things. I mean, just stuff that weren't connected to my place as such, but he was talking about sort of politically and culturally sensitive places. And I think I might have tweeted about this. Did anybody know what the Barakumin was? And it's unspeakable villages in Japan where people who work in particular occupations lived. So anybody who worked with, who was sort of like a funeral director, or like worked with the dead and dying, anyone who worked with leather, anyone who was a butcher or worked in sewage and that kind of thing, had to live in a particular unspeakable village. And I was fascinated. I mean, it's nothing to do with my study, but it was just really interesting. And this I think it was, which one was it, Dan? One of the two Dans, anyway, had actually done a PhD on place. So he was really into it and really, had some fascinating stuff. So those particular people had to live in particular places. There was bits and pieces about sort of products and services and things like that, and I think next year they're looking to have something that is on Family Search that might be useful for people who are doing community studies and things like that, but it wasn't at the stage when they could really talk too much about it. So yeah, I think the great thing for me about that particular talk, whilst Amy's was fantastic, and gave me lots of apps and best websites and things like that, some of which I knew and some of which I didn't. This just made me question more. It kind of, I've got my notebook next to me that you can probably tell I've been reading off, but it gave me lots of questions to think about, which, although maybe some of them aren't specifically transferable to my place, you can kind of think, actually, but I do want to know about that. And it just makes you think a little bit more about it. I think that one of the ones I put on Twitter was about, did anybody know the name of a place that was, I think it was Pressburg? I think it was Pressburg I put on there, but one of the places that he said, and it was just kind of tracing the names of the different places and how they've changed over time. Again, not really relevant to my place because they stay the same name, but the houses have changed. So the house names have changed. So although the place name itself hadn't changed, the house name or the road name might have changed. And I just thought I might look at that when I've got 5 minutes or a bit longer. But just lots of questions that I've sort of put down in my notebook to sort of consider for the future. So yeah, those were the only two talks I actually went to. Well, apart from my own, because I think I might have got slightly told off if I hadn't done that one. But so I didn't really manage to get to too many others, but there weren't really any other ones that were really connected to place studies. Otherwise, I would have hot-footed it down the corridor to those. So the whole sort of experience itself was, well, just completely different, to be honest. People have said to me, was it what you expected? Well, I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't really know what to expect. People had sort of said it's big, so I kind of got the fact there was going to be lots of people there, but don't really have a sort of, I didn't have an idea of what I was expecting to achieve, or what I was expecting to experience, or what I was expecting to, I suppose, get out of it personally or whatever. It was a great experience. Would I do it again? Yes, I probably would. Would I do it every year? No, I probably wouldn't. I don't think it's something that has to be an every individual one is an experience. And I think you could end up going every year, which would be fine, but I don't think that would be me. Probably can't afford it for a start.
So what's your favourite new website or app that you found as a result?
Good question, which leads me cunningly into the next part of what I was going to talk about. And I never even told you that, Susie. On the Wednesday of the conference, there was something called the Innovation Summit. And the Innovation Summit was 12 finalists from around the world, not just the US, with different applications that are either very much in their infancy or have been around for a couple of years but needed a bit more support or funding or whatever. And they were whittled down to 6 on the Wednesday, and then the finalists, the top 3 rather, were actually announced on the Friday. And it was really exciting because actually one of them was from the UK that were in the top 3. So first of all, it was exciting because they got into the top 6. I have to confess, I'd only heard of them just before I left, and it wasn't linked to RootsTech, but I'd heard of them in January. There was just sort of a kind of a conversation. I can't even remember who it was with, but so I was vaguely aware of their existence, but didn't know they were in the top 12 for RootsTech. Met them on the Wednesday night and sort of said, "Oh, so exciting that you're in the top 6," and sort of said, you know, talk to them about funding, talk to them about the product, and so on. And the company is called Twile, Twile. They're based up in Doncaster, but they're actually kind of like a lot of companies now, sort of satellite, different people, different places. They don't really sort of have a main office space or anything like that, but based up in Doncaster, broadly speaking. I'll see if I can just bring up their website actually. But yeah, they were in the top 3. They actually came 3rd. But they also won the People's Choice Award. So the top 3 got a certain amount of funding, obviously in US dollars. And if you got the People's Choice, you got an extra, I think it was £10,000 or £6,000. But in the end, Twile got more money than the second team, their second company, I should say, because of the fact that actually they'd got the People's Choice. So I'll just drag that out a moment and share that. It's all about a sort of a timeline to bring your family history to life. There is a little clip about it actually on the RootsTech site. All the 12 finalists had, I think, 90 seconds, possibly 120, but very short, sharp video clips that are linked on there. That's just the homepage for Twile. And so there's the opportunity to have a look at all of them. Now, what amazed me more than anything else is that, I don't know if this is true of Twile, I don't think it is, but so many of them were absolutely free. And I just spoke to people and sort of, you know, listened to their pitch and, you know, heard what they had to offer. And of course, then you come in with the killer question, don't you? And you say, so how much does all of this cost? And most of them are totally free. There's the winners were a company called Tap Genes, who I actually interviewed as part of the conference, and they do kind of like it sounds, the genetic side of things, but it's about health. So it's an app that stores information about the health of your family, so that if you have a particular sort of predisposition to X, Y, or Z, X and Y are good letters to use, actually, aren't they? Anyway, if you've got a predisposition to whatever the condition might be, you can share that information with your family. And I sort of thought, oh, hang on a minute, data protection, you know, this has got to be pretty tough on privacy. But actually, there's I think it's HIPAA that the chap said. There's a sort of a HIPAA, obviously, sort of data protection thing in the US, and they tick all the boxes for them apparently. So I didn't understand what HIPAA was, but I got the kind of general idea that it was about privacy and making sure that everything was tip-top and you know, tight on security. And again, it's free, and you don't have to share the information with the world at large. Clearly, you wouldn't want to, but you don't even have to share it with everybody within your family. You can say, actually, my sister can know that, but nah, my brother doesn't need to know that, or I don't want him to know that. So you can keep the privacy even within the app itself to certain members of the family. So that's the people who were the winners. Second was a company called Studio, which is all about taking high quality images, and this is sort of big box, and you have to do it on an iPhone 6, I think it is, and I don't have an iPhone, so hence I know very little about it. But Studio were the ones who came second, and I think it's about 3D, making an image that you have 3D. So sort of bringing it to life a little bit more. But as I say, because I didn't have an iPhone and it didn't seem to be, you couldn't do it with a normal Android phone. I didn't listen very much to that one. We had the opportunity because the ambassadors were in the media hub. There was sort of a separate area that only we could use, which was really useful, because although it felt a little bit like a zoo at times, because people would sort of come up and be asking people all the way around the outside different questions, but it's quite nice. And the people who were in the Innovation Summit could actually come in and speak to us, which at times I have to say was slightly wearing, because you're thinking, I'm trying to work in here. Actually, I don't want to talk to all these people. I'm trying to get on with what I'm supposed to be doing. But some of them were really, really interesting. And one particular company was called Pass It Down, which is, I've got some books which I gave to my parents many, many years ago, called Mother's Memories and Father's Memories, that have billions of questions. It's designed by somebody who actually used to be a teacher. And there are all sorts of grandfather's memories books. You can pretty much give it to any member of the family. And it's got things like, what was your favourite subject at school, and do you remember when I was born, for my mother and father, obviously was a relevant question. What was your favourite subject? Who was your favourite teacher? Did you have any brothers and sisters? Did you get on? So just little snippety questions like that, not things that you'd necessarily know the answer to. And this app, Pass It Down, is exactly the same kind of concept. And again, it's free. I don't think they were in the top 12, because I googled the other day for it in RootsTech site, and it wasn't there. So let me see. Pass It Down, a new digital storytelling platform that makes storytelling easy by allowing you and your loved ones to craft stories using video, audio, photos, and I'm just clicking it. I'll get the next word in a minute, but you get the idea. And again, it's free. Capturing, sharing, and preserving your memories, it says. Videos, audio, photos, and text. Don't let the stories pass you by. Pass them down. And it's called Pass It Down. PassItDown.com. And I have to say, of all of the people who came in and spoke to us during the conference, they were the best at just not being sell, because some of them don't really have to sell it because it's not free, and because it's free, and this is free as well. But the guy who came up and spoke, I didn't even know that he was trying to tell me about a product. He was just genuinely nice chap, came up, spoke to me about something completely different, and then said, do you mind if I just show you this? And he showed me how it worked, and it's great. And again, it's free. The other thing that I think I put out on Twitter, probably did, was Wikitree. Again, I interviewed the founder of Wikitree, Chris Whitten, who I had lunch with at one stage, and I knew vaguely of Wikitree because I know Roz uses it, and we've talked about it with alternative hats on, the bowler hats, I think, aren't they, Roz? But I knew nothing about it. Again, didn't know whether it was free or whether it cost money to use or anything like that. Hadn't logged onto it. Didn't know anything about the functionality. It's brilliant, and it's free. And you can put things about your place in there. You can put your own family history in. You can put surname studies in there, and you can tag different things on it. You can put the whole of your one place in there. I don't know how yet. Maybe I will soon. But you can put all of the data you want to in there, and it's the same with many of the other things I've been talking about. A, it's free, but B, you don't have to make it available to the world. You can upload as much or as little as you want. I think the only slight, I'm not even going to call it a downfall, but don't put too much on Wikitree was, I think, the main message that Chris was saying when I interviewed him, because a lot of people want to upload a whole bucket load of stuff, but then don't actually want to communicate with people about it. So that doesn't give a good, user experience. So it's kind of put it up there if you want to collaborate. If you don't put it up there. which is, I think, probably fair for any site. But yeah, that was a really interesting interview as well. So, sorry, Susie, I think that was probably longer than you were expecting me to jabber on over your one question.
No, that's fine. So who owns the data on WikiTree?
Oh, now there's a question. Not one I know the answer to. I would imagine that it's still the owner, but I don't really know. Does anybody else know? Because I know, Alex, do you use WikiTree?
I've logged on and had a look, so I understand anyone can sign on and contribute. For each individual, there is whoever first sets up that individual, they sort of own the page, so it's really a moderator keeping an eye on it kind of thing rather than ownership per se, but anyone can contribute and edit the page.
Yeah.
So it is supposed to be a shared collaborative.
Yeah. I don't know in terms of, with the whole Ancestry thing, does Ancestry own all your data because you put it up there? It's that age-old question, isn't it? If your subscription's no longer there with Ancestry, people often say, well, is my data still there, and can you get them to take it down? And so I don't honestly know, Susie. I think it's one to sort of dig into, but it's free to log in, it's free to register, the whole thing is free. It's not a case of, well, you can only do X, Y, or Z on the free package and then you have to pay whatever. There is no financial commitment whatsoever, no matter how much you use it.
I think that the data remains yours.
That's what I think, yeah.
Pretty sure.
Because I remember when I first bought Family Tree Maker, and this was before Ancestry owned it. It was owned by, I can't remember who now. And in fact, Dennis bought me my initial package that included something like 12 data CDs. And all the data CDs were stuff that people had sort of loaded. And the owners had then decided that the data was theirs. And so they were effectively selling it on with the copy of the program.
Oh.
Which was a bit.
Well, this is totally different, and so I would be very, very surprised if it wasn't still owned by you solely. I don't think you're giving up anything. I think it's just a collaborative platform.
That sounds good.
You're choosing to share it.
Yeah, exactly, and it's choosing to share it, but choosing to kind of open yourself up really to that kind of collaborative way of working, rather than. Lots of people just keep it behind closed doors and keep it to themselves. It's not. I think, Chris was sort of keen to sort of say, well, people shouldn't upload absolutely everything and just have it as a sort of a backup facility, because people will want to engage, because that's the whole point of the setup. So that was really good. And as I say, there's so many things that are free that I didn't know about them, and some of them are quite new anyway. There's lots to kind of dip your toes into, but it's the same thing, I suppose, as which package do you use to store everything in? Do you dip your toes into all of these little ponds, lakes, rivers, oceans, whatever you might want to call them? What do you want to achieve with each of them? So I'm sort of dipping my toes into a couple, finding out a bit more about them, because you can. You don't have to pay to do it, so you can just kind of register, log on, and see, what's there and how it can work for you in that 5 minutes of free time.
Yeah. Well, if it's got value for your personal family history or for your one-place study, you'll get a feel relatively quickly for how it might be used.
The timeline concept for one-place studies, the trial one, probably works quite well for us. As it would for individual family histories. If you want to literally track a person, their timeline, you can put in their historic events, you can put in, so as I say, for us it would be, something, Alex, that's happened in Wing at a particular point. Maybe somebody's taken over. I don't know if you have mayors in Wing, but just as an example, if you have the mayor of Wing, and and then so-and-so politician did whatever that had an impact on the whole nation. You can add all sorts of different bits, and you can add it in different colours, different shaped boxes to kind of highlight whether it's a local event or whether it's a national event or something that's happened to a specific person in the community or things like that. And I think that might be quite good for people to sort of timeline their places, their communities.
I wondered if it would work for a place. I've got my family history, my personal family history up there already. And they keep sending me emails saying, I haven't seen you for a while, and I've just looked at their website, and there's a little box flashes up that says, "Hi Ros, I'm just checking in to see how you're getting on with trial. How are you finding it?" And I'm thinking, could you just sort of go away a minute, please, and let me sort of think about things?
Give me that 5 minutes to actually get my head into it again. Yeah. I think it is. I think the way that it's been set up in that way, in terms of reminding people, is because actually, how many of us just leave different resources, sources, and things, and just forget about them? You log in. And I think, that's what I've had quite a few emails from My Heritage over the last probably week or two, sort of saying, hello. Like, yeah, hi. I think I had one today saying something about a upgrade or something I could get, and I thought, really? Is that because I haven't replied to the other 3 emails that you've sent by logging into your site then? But everyone's trying to kind of keep us on board and keep us interested in whatever they have to offer. So I think that's probably the wise on that. But yeah. Any other questions about RootsTech?
So was your talk on that big stage?
No, mine was in one of the smaller rooms. We did an ethical, it wasn't ethical dilemmas, but basically that's what it was. What was the title? How to deal with ethical dilemmas in the online genealogical world. And we had quite a few different scenarios that myself, Jill Ball, who's a member, I think she's a member of society. Can't recall. We did talk about one place studies, so I think she probably is. Either that, or she was just creating promotion for us for fun and kicks. I don't know. But so there's the 2 of us. Jill was the panel leader. So it's myself, Roger Moffat, who is originally from down in your neck of the woods, Alex, but now lives in the US. I think in Detroit. Seems to ring a bell. And Christine Woodcock, who is Scottish born but Canadian. So I think I was the only one that actually lives where I was born in the country anyway. So yeah, we all 4 of us there were sort of asking different questions and kind of coming up with different scenarios that we'd come up before. We sort of prepared beforehand. And took questions from the audience and things like that, but copyright and plagiarism and things were key discussion points, and how to cope with Facebook groups and things like that, which I've been shouting about since, rather loudly in parts, but yeah, so it wasn't to do specifically with one place, but it was a sort of a general thing about the online genealogical world and sort of how to cope with all sorts of different scenarios.
That's certainly relevant for one place studies anyway. I mean, copyright is quite a hot topic.
I think it is
studies whenever we get together. Yeah.
I mean, we had we also were interviewed, myself, Judy Russell, Judy G. Russell, to give her full title. Judy, I don't think there are any other Judy Russells in the genealogical world, but so Judy G for genealogy possibly, but Judy G. Russell, Jill Ball and myself were interviewed by the in-depth genealogists, 2 of the ladies who are involved with IDG, the in-depth genealogists. We got as far as 2 questions, and then we ran out of time because we talked too much. You only get 10 minutes. So you get 10 minutes to talk about it. By the time you get Jill and Judy and myself jabbering away, we got 2 questions, and then we got the signal of, like, because they do a little, 2 minutes. And so Shannon sort of said, "Oh, I think we're getting the sign." I said, "No, it's just we've had 2 questions, so we can carry on." But no, some interesting points came up in that as well. And I think the problem that we've got, whether it's one place or family history or whatever we're doing in this field, people just have no appreciation of what copyright actually is or what conditions of use are. you know, using different things that they think are perfectly acceptable to repost on different places, and they're not. So yeah, that was a good one to be involved in. So yeah, it was different. That one, and sort of, I think the one thing that kind of struck me was RootsTech has a very American base of lectures. There weren't that many that were Scottish, Irish, you know, sort of how to research outside the States. I mean, Bruce Jury talked about Scottish research. John Grensham spoke about Irish research. Miko spoke about how to research your ancestors in Britain, and Audrey Collins was there as well. I think hers was about National Archives records because she works at the National Archives. So she spoke about that. There was a couple of different ones. I'll say there were Scandinavian, German, you know, sort of European-y ones, but they were very much in the minority. Very much in the minority. And actually what would be kind of useful perhaps in the future for them would be to have a sort of a track of, there's one in this block of lectures, one in that block of lectures, one in that block of lectures. So if you actually wanted to know more about researching outside the US, then you could have different ones that you could go to there. So that's a, I would say downfall, but something that was obviously missing.
Although with RootsTech, the focus is supposed to be technology, isn't it? So
originally,
those technologies
yes. I would
should
say
be
now
internationally
probably not.
focused. Yeah. Okay.
I think originally it was set up for that, but now, I mean, certainly the talks I went to had nothing to do with technology at all.
Okay.
Nothing at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, as I say, that it would be beneficial to have more sort of how to research outside. There were some good ones in terms of, you know, how to use social media, and Lisa Louise Cook did some good lectures. You know, I've sort of heard from other attendees and other ambassadors, but just a little bit more sort of diverse ones for sort of outside the US. So. Any other burning questions, ladies?
Oh, perhaps we could have an article to go in destinations.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that, Susan. Not predictable, mate, at all. Not predictable at all.
For those society members, Susie, you should have received an article already for destinations about RootsTech.
Yes. From a non-attendee, but a virtual one.
From a non-attendee. So for those society members like myself who did not attend RootsTech, there are still resources out there sort of generated by the RootsTech goings on, and so that will point you towards a few videos and other bits and bobs of one place studies interests. So members can watch for that in the next issue.
And I think, you know, you can search back through on, I didn't do very much on the Society Facebook page, just through lack of time, really, but I certainly Twittered a lot. And as Alex said, you know, she was up and about and doing all sorts of tweeting as well. So you can search through for hashtag RootsTech, and there's an absolute raft of stuff. I mean, I know Randy Seaver on Genia Musings, he's collated, I think there are over 100 and something odd blogs and things that he's actually collated that have been written about RootsTech. So even if you're not there, you can read through some of those people's experiences and things like that. Lots of people have tweeted or Facebooked some of the videos that were recorded in the Media Hub. I did a couple, Jill did bucket loads, Sian did some, but there's all sorts of, as I say, the what do you call them? The lifestyle bloggers. A lot of those are out there as well. So I would just, you know, even just search Google, or other search engines are available, but put it into whatever your favourite search engine is, and just Google RootsTech blogs. You'll probably find absolute rafts of it. And as they go through hashtag RootsTech on Twitter, or even hashtag not at RootsTech, because I don't know who created that one, but certainly there were quite a few hashtag not at RootsTech conversations, which are just as good, because some of them were actually watching the live streams. So although they weren't physically in the room in Salt Lake watching them, they were still, you know, tweeting some really, really good stuff. So yeah, there's certainly a whole load there. And as I say, the RootsTech site has got all the video that was recorded. It's all still up there. It's free to watch. As I say, I don't think you can download it. I'm pretty damn certain probably can't, but you can certainly watch it over and over and over and over and over again. So any kind of, I won't say final questions, but any other questions you want to ask?
I've got a comment.
Hi, Darius.
Hello. I had a meeting booked over this, so I couldn't join until just a few minutes ago. One idea, I don't know if this would be of interest or not, but there's encouragement for rebroadcasts of the sessions, and it would allow you to show those at an event.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know the details.
Do we have to download? Because I know you, as I say, I'm pretty damn certain you can't download them, and it's quite hard because I tried with Susie just prior to going live to play the video, but when you screen share, you can't hear the sound. So
I can check on that and find out what the requirements are for doing a rebroadcast session like that. But those run throughout the following year. So all of this year and first part of next year, different locations will be hosting those smaller events, and then having like a local family history fair around it.
Okay, so would you think it might possibly be that we could do that for a hangout like this, or would it not be possible?
I don't know. I'll have to ask around.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be really good, because certainly the one that Amy Johnson Crow did on local history would be right up our alley, obviously. And although people can watch it independently, you know, it would be quite useful to do it as a broadcast.
Okay, I'll check on it.
Thank you very much. That would be great. Thanks. So, any questions to finish us off before we cease fire for the evening, or, well, morning, or whatever the hell time it is in the world, wherever you are?
No. Excellent. Thank you, Kirsty.
No, it's all right.
Yes,
well,
thanks,
as I say, it's not something I'd ever considered doing. It kind of fell randomly that it happened, and I would suggest that if anybody has the opportunity, go. It's an amazing experience. Just Salt Lake City itself is an amazing experience. So even if you just do it once in your life, put it on the bucket list. Definitely put it on the bucket list. And you know, if you get the opportunity, however that may come about, then I would definitely do it. Definitely do it. And I have to say, before we close, I'd recommend the Hotel Monaco, which is nobody else. No other genealogist stayed there. I never saw a single other person at the conference from there. It's just over the street. It's slightly better than the Hilton and Holiday Inn kind of style, and it was brilliant. And it's literally right across the way from the convention centre. But I mean, there's loads. The Marriott, well, one of the 8 Marriotts in Salt Lake City is right opposite. How you need 8, I really don't know. But one of the 8 is right opposite the conference convention centre. Hilton is right on the corner as well, and the Holiday Inn. But the Monaco is slightly further away, 100 yards, if that. But do take some good walking boots that don't mean that you slide over on a particularly icy evening. But it's all right. My knee's better now. We're fine. Anyways, probably time to wrap up. So I'll say thank you very much, everybody, for hanging around, being there, coming into the room. If you're able to join us, and hope people get the opportunity to watch this on YouTube to catch up later if they haven't been able to watch it live. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Kirsty.
Thanks.